everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wisco Boater's Nep'Toon Micro Tug 9. Picking up where we left off the other day, I'm going to remove the wax paper. I've got my hinge for the rear bench has arrived, so I'm going to install that. I need to do a little sanding on the front bench, right? You can't quite see it, but anyway, where that center plug is. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, so I was gone for a couple of days visiting my dad. So I want to say hi to my dad. Special shout out to him in Central Illinois. And I know that he always enjoys watching these videos. I'm going to pick up where I left off with this. I'm here for this week. Actually, this week is a good week to work on the tugboat because Brittany is in Texas for the entire week doing some dog training. So I'm hoping that I can get some of the wrap-up stuff done on the tugboat while she's gone. She has 3 of our 5 dogs with her, so I only have 2. But then after this week, I leave for another week of travel for work. I'll be in Seattle, yay. If you live in Seattle, thanks for watching, I appreciate it. I love visiting, I just couldn't live there, I think. And then I think I'm here for 2 weeks after that, and then I leave for 2 more weeks of work travel for 2 trade shows, one in Florida, one in Germany. And then after that, it's gonna be wrap-up time for the tugboat, which means paint, interior, just all the finishing stuff. If I do hose pipes, if I have to do the bow eye, I have to put the name on the boat. Pretty exciting stuff coming up here in the next couple of months, although it is going to be fairly busy for travel for me here in the next month and a half. But when I have time, I definitely am going to be working on this. So let's get going on removing the wax paper from fiberglassing the roof the other day. Really not too bad taking the first 2 pieces off. There's a little bit of soft fiberglass right here, but I think I can paint right over that, and I don't think we'll be able to notice it. All right, let's switch this around. I'll show you a couple of the imperfections that show up when the wax paper comes off. Right here, see, my fingernails are nice and smooth. Right here, if I move over here, there's a section that's rough. So I'm not really sure what happened there. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I think primer paint will probably flow right over the top of that. Right here, there was a bubble. There's another one right there. So I'll probably sand those just a little bit. It filled over the screws nicely, so those will be nicely covered and never seen. Very smooth. Excellent. There are a few little rough spots here and there. There's one right in here. It'll make painting this very easy. Just some minor sanding. I'm not even sure if some of these little bubble areas I'm gonna have to, I don't even know if I'll have to do any filling because I'll use a high build primer initially before I put color on the top. So now I need to go around and trim off all this excess fiberglass that's on here. I'll do that with an X-Acto knife. I think I did a pretty good job of keeping the resin fairly thin all the way around. So I shouldn't have to do any jigsaw or grinding around the edges. So I'll start with the easy areas down here on the ground before stepping up into the tugboat to cut the rest of the excess off. Got a brand new blade. Hoping that it will cut through fairly nicely. I am continually impressed with this little heater that I have. It's, I don't think it ever got above about 4 degrees this afternoon outside. And overnight it was -9 or 10. So it was well below freezing when I started the heater this morning. in the shop, and it's 52 degrees in here right now. I'm loving that the daylight hours are starting to grow again, and we are after 5 o'clock. We still got sunshine outside. Awesome. Boating season is almost here. Okay, this is the part I hate. I gotta crawl under the boat again. I can't reach that side. Oh, this part sucks! God, it's not even that I'm too old for this. It's just a pain in the ass to get back here. Maybe it is that I'm too old for this. I don't know. 41 doesn't seem that old. But man, there are definitely days where I feel like 41 is too old. All right, well, I'm gonna have to do a little more, just a tiny little bit of resin right here. Because this was super hard to reach from the other side, so I'll just put a dab of resin and droop it over. I'm gonna coat this whole front edge anyway. Same thing here though. Resin just didn't quite get to this corner, and that's just because my access to it was really bad from either side. I mean, I could have reached it from here, but spending the time to crawl under the boat to get to this side while working with resin that is working against me from a time perspective just didn't work out. So not a huge deal. At some point, whenever I get to finishing and before paint, I'll take care of that. Alright, so I need to go around the edges and hit it with my block sander. I will probably do that at the very end of this build session because it's going to throw up a bunch of dust. And I have dealt with a week-long cough of breathing wood and resin dust, and it's probably really bad for me, but that was my mistake. Stupid mistake. Always wear your mask. Always wear your mask. My cough has been so nasty this week. All right, let's take the hinge out of the Amazon box. I bought a 48-inch piece of stainless steel, I think it's 304 stainless piano hinge for the rear bench. I need about 40 inches. So I'll have to grind a little bit of the middle section away. So what I'm going to do is take this 48-inch piece and I'm going to cut out about probably 6 inches here in the middle, and I will use the hinge pin as a release mechanism so that if I ever need to take the cover off, all I have to do is pull the pin. I'm not going to make one full length of hinge pin across the back. This actually comes from my airplane building experience, where the flaps on the airplane that I built, which was an RV7, shown here, were put on with hinges. And of course, every year, I mean, you may or may not know this, but every year, every single airplane in the United States, whether built by someone at home or built by a factory, has to be inspected in what's called either an annual inspection in the case of a certified airplane, or a condition inspection in the case of an experimental airplane. My flaps were installed by Hinge, piano hinge, exact same stuff as this, except they may have been aluminum, I don't remember. Either way, the flaps had to come off every year. So I made a very easy removal process by halfway down the flaps, cutting a gap in the hinge to where I could then just pull the pin out in order to remove that control surface. I probably have pictures of it. I've got 2-inch wide 304 stainless pre-countersunk holes. So what I will do, I'll have to figure out how to, looks like I can punch the hinge out from this side. So I'll clamp this down, use a punch, and push the pin out so I can separate these two sides into 2 separate pieces. And then I'll lay it down, figure out where I want my brake to be. Either cut it with some shears or grinding wheel. So the brand of hinge that I bought is Disunia. Get a little letter from them when you order. I have no idea if this was made in China or not, but they start off this letter with saying, telling a joke. Why did the man fall into the well? The answer? He couldn't see that well. Alright. Okay, here's the setup for the piano hinge. Got it clamped down to the bench. I'm going to take a punch pin and a hammer and work this pin all the way out. Should be fairly easy. I'll push it as far as I can with the pin, and then I'll take a pair of pliers and then work it out the rest of the way. That's as far as that's gonna go. Uh-oh. Well, that's not good. Let's come down to this end. Okay, that came out easily. So now my problem lies in my pick tool that's now stuck inside the hinge. So let's clamp this up extra tight. Oh, I don't want to ruin this pick. That's just a stupid mistake. Oh. Ooh, that's hot. All right, that's released. Anyway, the hinge is now in 2 separate pieces. Here are the hinge pieces. They do fit, right? So I've got around 50 inches of width at the hinge, outside to outside of the hull. I was thinking that I would use the ends on both sides and make 2 cuts, but the ends are kind of rough, so I don't really think I need to do that. So what I'm going to do, make sure I make 1 piece. So I'll use the piece that has an eye on the end, and I'll line that up about where I want it to be. So right about there, here's my center line, and I want probably 2 inches either side of the center line in order to be able to install or take out the hinge pin. I just need to cut off maybe 3 eyelets right here, and then do the same thing for the other side. All right, I think that's what I'll start with. I'm going to cut out this section here, just because it gives me a screw here and a screw here, which is fairly close to the end on either side. Always helps to measure. So I got 18 and a half inches either side, and I'm right on an eyelet at each cut line. I like it.
Remember what I said earlier? Always wear your mask and headphones and eye protection.
Oh man, it smells hot metal in here. I really actually kind of like that smell. So I've got my 2 pieces cut here. One's gonna go right about there. And this one will go right about there. Still hot. So my gap here is for the pin to come out. So the pin's gonna come out and make a 90-degree bend so that it can't accidentally come out. So if it slowly works its way that way, it's gonna run into this hinge. If it slowly works its way that way, the 90-degree bend in the pin is gonna keep it from going any further. So now we'll size the pin. So I'm gonna cut it halfway, and then I'll just bend it 90 degrees. I think when I was younger, my fingers were a little bit stronger. Now, I need pliers to help me release the vice grips. So we got this one done. So that's how much we did not use. 6-7 inches, something like that. Set that aside. Never know when that might come in handy. So I'm gonna sand down just a little bit. Ooh, that's sharp. Sand down the end just a little bit so that it slides in easier. Okay, right there is where we want that. Got about 2 inches of overhang, and I'm just gonna take my pliers and bend this. Now, try it again. Bend it. Just to give it a 90-degree bend. So what's gonna happen now is, when this gets installed, this is just going to sit flush against the back, and I'll tie it down in some fashion so that it actually won't move. Oh, I cut myself. Stainless steel is sharp. And we'll do the same thing for this side. Okay, that's exactly how that will fit. Actually, what I might do is just tie these 2 together once they're installed. That way they can't move either way. So I used a file and smoothed out the edges here so I don't have any dangerous edges. So now I'm going to screw the piano hinge down. I'll start on one end, get the line centered. Okay, we have leftover screws because I obviously didn't use all the hinge, cutting off about, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches in there. Oh, you know what? This is kind of funny. I forgot that there's a lip inside here. So, all the screws on this side gotta come out just a little bit. I mean, I just used the screws that came with the hinge. And I guess if I had thought about it, I probably should have switched those out for something a little bit shorter. But yeah, you can see each one of these screws went into that wood just a little bit. Tighten these back up with it open, and then I'll cut them off with the cutoff wheel. All right, well, it works. I just gotta go, now I gotta cut off each one of these screws with the cutoff wheel. Okay, now it closes perfectly. All sand sand these nice and smooth, so there's no safety issue there. And I think I'll either tab these down with something, or I'll just tie them together so they can't go anywhere. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to clean up the center plug here. I'm going to use a chisel, hammer, get rid of the foam, and then I might just chisel away the actual the plug just to make it flush. Because my next step will be to fiberglass this bench. Alright, that one's nice and flush. This one's flush. This one sticks up just a little bit, so I'm gonna try and take off just a little bit of the top. Alright, that one's good too. A little bit of an indent there, but I'll just fill that in with some resin and then put a piece of fiberglass over the top of this. So I think the only other thing I'm going to do tonight is come up here to the roof, put on my mask, and sand the edges of that, and then vacuum everything up and call it a day.
Yeah, definitely wear a freaking mask when you're doing this. Alright, time to vacuum.
Alright, got all the sanding done. Everything's vacuumed and cleaned up. Edges look really good. What I'll do is next time I mix up a batch of resin is I'll come along and I'll paint all these edges with epoxy. And I'll probably just wrap it around on the bottom side just to protect that wood. But this looks really nice. I also cleaned up everything down here on the front bench. Probably just cut out a piece of either 4-ounce or 6-ounce fiberglass and just lay a sheet down over that. And then for the seats, I'll probably put a doubler block somewhere in there. I'll do that after I fiberglass it. That's all done. Roof is done. Rear bench is done. Things are getting done here. And as I look at my list, I've got to fiberglass the sides of the hull, fiberglass the deck, which I'll probably put a piece of 4 or 6 ounce glass on the top of this. It's covered right now with resin, but I probably should put one piece of glass on top of that. Sand everything, window trim, hose pipes, maybe. Cleats for sure, paint and name. That's it. Oh, batteries. Yeah, gotta do batteries. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased with how the roof came out. Front bench, rear bench, everything is looking really, really nice. Tonight I'm going to lay out the front deck fiberglass and get that installed. I think I have a piece here that will work pretty well for this section. So we'll get it trimmed out and then laid down at some point. I've also got a piece for the front bench seat sitting in the cabin. I don't really know how I got to have a piece that fits basically perfectly into the triangle shape of the bow here, but that's the way it worked out. Hopefully I can trim it now without screwing up the lines of it. So I'm going to do 3 pieces here. I'm going to do the front triangle section, and then I'm going to do a strip down the side here on either side. Along here is going to be easier to cut from the inside because my arm doesn't work that way, so. Okay, well, I'm gonna start over here, work inside out. This will be kind of interesting. Down the sides here, I pretty much have to use a brush. I can't get a spatula down here, so. Yeah, this is not working at all. Okay, well the sides are quite frustrating. Hopefully I can get the front done with a little less stress. Man, Glove Plus, Ace Hardware, don't ever buy them. These things suck. All right, well, I'm gonna try to use the brush here to work the resin into the weave on the corners where it's kind of still sticking up. Well, man, I gotta say, this is probably my least favorite part of this whole thing so far. I'm not even sure how it'll turn out, but I had to put some wax paper down and hope for the best, I guess. Not super pleased with this, but I could be wrong. I don't know. We'll let this dry overnight, obviously, peel the wax paper off tomorrow, and I'll see what I got. It's covered in wax paper all the way around. Should be smooth anyway. I don't know how good the finish is gonna be, so I'm gonna mix up one more batch tonight, put that piece on the front bench there. Well, this should go quite a bit smoother than the front deck did. I mean, simple flat piece, just a matter of spreading out the epoxy. So, we'll spread it out and then call this night done. That wasn't too bad. All right, let's get some wax paper, get this part done. Let's wrap up this episode with taking off the wax paper from the deck and the sides and the bench, and we'll see what we got. Alright, well, as I suspected, it's not great. Most of the cleanup I'm going to have to do is going to be related to the edges here. They're quite rough. A lot of air bubbles that ended up in the corners. Some sharp edges. It's just gonna take some sanding to get it right. There's also a little bit of a soft spot right here. So I might have to put one more piece of glass over that. And it's nice and solid. I don't have any issues with how solid it is. Just some areas didn't quite take the resin as good as I had hoped it would. So I'll finish taking off the wax paper of the rest of the pieces, and at some point, it'll all get sanded down and be ready for paint. So I actually don't know what I'm gonna do next. So while I figure that out, I'm gonna go drink a beer. See you guys next time. Happy boating.